Welcome to another episode of Cooking Clean with Chef Octavia. On this episode, it's all about indoor grilling. On this episode, we will be preparing grilled watermelon steaks, chicken thighs, and sweet potatoes. And we'll also be preparing a tomato and squash salad. This is a really quick and easy tomato squash salad. We're gonna build this salad right in a bowl, dressing and all. So we're gonna start off with some cherry tomatoes that's cut in half. And I'm gonna go right in my bowl. So I have some fresh yellow squash that's cut. And this is the bulk of our salad. And that was one whole yellow squash. It's summertime, so squash is in season. I try to focus on cooking in season and making salads in season. This is something that's really cookout friendly and also make ahead friendly. And it's super healthy, it's super clean, and it's quick. Then I'm gonna go in with 1 ounce of white balsamic vinegar. And white balsamic vinegar, because if I did regular balsamic vinegar, it has a stronger flavor. White balsamic vinegar is a little sweeter, and also I don't wanna put a brown vinegar in here or a dark colored vinegar, and I have these nice bright vegetables. And so then I'm gonna go in with some minced fresh garlic. And yes, this is raw garlic, so I'll probably go raw garlic goes a long way. So I wouldn't add this whole thing, and this whole thing is probably about equivalent to 1 clove. So I'm probably gonna go like, I'll say 1/4 of a clove, because raw garlic is strong. I'm gonna do that. And then I'm going to give this a mix, just to get everything tossed in. And like I said, this is a make ahead salad, and raw squash is literally, it's firm, but the longer this marinates, it softens up a little bit and it soaks up the flavors. So I am gonna add just a little bit of salt, because this has like no flavor right now besides the tomatoes and the plain squash. So I'm gonna add about 1/2 teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of black pepper. And then I'm also gonna add some olive oil. And I'm gonna drizzle my oil just around the bowl so it coats. And we pretty much just made our marinade in the bowl. You have your oil, you always have an acid, which is my white balsamic vinegar is my acid. And then my oil and my seasonings. And I'm gonna give it a taste. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna taste the vegetables itself, because it hasn't sat long enough to marinate and soak up. So I'm gonna lean my bowl, and I'm gonna basically taste the marinade itself. Now that's good. And then I'm gonna finish this off with some fresh chopped parsley. You can use dried parsley, but you guys know what I always say, fresh is better. But you can always use dried parsley in this. You would add it at this stage. The marinade will rehydrate the dried parsley. So I'm gonna grab some parsley. Just gonna snip some. Just a couple of leaves. And I'm gonna chop these up. And then we'll be good to go. And I'm not going to like super fine chop these because you want the parsley, the fresh parsley gives flavor, it gives texture. But the more I chop these, the more it comes bruised, and it would defeat the purpose of using fresh parsley. So fresh herbs are delicate, so you don't want to like over chop them. And then I'm just going to go right in here. Then I'm going to mix. And then that is our tomato and squash salad. We're gonna let this marinate. It's better to let it marinate, like you can make it ahead, like if you're prepping for a cookout or something like that, you can make it ahead and let it sit for like, you know, an hour, 2 hours. You could let it sit in the fridge, but if you can, let it sit out, because I think a salad like this is good room temperature, but you could definitely serve it cold if you like. But my personal preference is serve it room temperature, and I'll say about 2 hours, but if you gotta do a day before, that's fine too, it'll still be good. All right, so now we're going to prep our watermelon steak for the grill. So this was a watermelon, a whole watermelon that I broke down. It's a little less than a quarter of a watermelon. So I took the skin off, I cut it, and then you want it to kind of resemble like a steak. So, and when you're cutting this, you don't want it super thin, because watermelon is full of water. So when we go to put it on the grill, you want it to still be, to hold up. So when you cut into it, it's just like a steak, basically. Not as tough, but just like a steak. So I'm gonna cut pieces, and this one is kind of split already, so, but this is kind of, I'm gonna go ahead and break it, but this is kind of the size that you're looking for on your steak, your watermelon. And I'm just going to throw it right in the bag. By now you guys know I love building my marinades in the bag. It makes it easier. Notice all I have is a cutting board in a bag. Oh. So I'm gonna throw that right on in there. And then I'm gonna make this 2 pieces, and we should be good. And I'm gonna put them in there just like that. And now we're gonna build our marinade. So to start, I have about a ½ ounce of balsamic vinegar. And on this one, I'm using dark balsamic vinegar, because when it cooks up, you want it to be kind of dark to resemble a steak. It's not gonna taste like a actual beef because it's watermelon. But the balsamic vinegar has that balance of acid that mixes well with the watermelon. And then this right here is liquid smoke. This, because we're doing indoor grilling, you want to incorporate bold flavors, the smokiness, to resemble like an outdoor grill. And so I'm gonna add about a ½ ounce of smoke, liquid smoke. And then when you're grilling, whether indoor or outdoor, you always want to add some spices or like bold flavors. I love a good barbecue rub or a good barbecue spice. You could make your own, or you could buy one, but I always say buy one that doesn't have any sodium or low sodium. And under 100 milligrams is low sodium. So this is one that I buy already made. It has all the spices in there. And so we're gonna add probably about a teaspoon of this to our watermelon steak. And on this, I'm not gonna add any salt to it because this does have a little bit of salt in it. But if I add salt to this watermelon, the salt is gonna draw all the water, all the moisture out of the watermelon, and I don't want that. I wanna keep as much as I can in until we get to the grilling process. So now I'm going to seal my bag, and we are going to mix without breaking the watermelon up, but we're basically mixing our marinade so it gets incorporated. And on the watermelon, this could marinate for like an hour. It really doesn't even need that. Watermelon soaks up marinades and seasonings like really quick. So you could definitely do this. Like, I could turn on my grill now and throw this on the grill and it'll still be good. And the good thing with watermelon, once we put it on the grill, the sauce, because it's watermelon is fruit, the leftover watermelon, we're gonna pour right over the watermelon steak when we plate. And that is your marinated watermelon. All right, so now we're going to prep our chicken thighs. And again, we're gonna build right in the bag. So I have a boneless chicken thighs, and you can use boneless or bone-in chicken thighs. And so I'm gonna take my chicken thigh and put it right in here. But you can use bone-in or boneless chicken thighs. The only difference is that the boneless chicken thighs, of course, doesn't take long to cook at all, but the bone-in will take a little longer, but you can still do indoor grilling with the bone-in. And bone-in, when you grill, it will create more moisture and more flavor. But even though the boneless chicken thigh won't have, it'll still have moisture to it because it's still a little fat content on the chicken thigh. So I'm going to go about 1/4 ounce of liquid smoke. Just enough. And then the same rub that I put on our watermelon steak is the same seasoning that I'm gonna use on our chicken thighs. And I am going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this. And then we're going to mix right in the bag. And then on the chicken, it's always good to marinate it overnight, especially when you're grilling, either indoor grilling or outdoor grilling. It's always good to marinate it overnight because chicken definitely takes longer to soak up flavors. And so I have one already done that I've been marinating for about 24 hours. And as you can see, the color on it is darker and yeah, full of flavor. So I have 2 types of sweet potatoes that we're going to be cooking with today. I have a traditional sweet potato, and then we also have a Japanese sweet potato. So traditional sweet potatoes are kind of sweet. The Japanese sweet potato is a little more starchier. It's white on the inside, and it's a little more starchy. It's almost like a white potato, but it has a sweetness to it. But I think mixing the two will give it a good balance. So if you never had a Japanese sweet potato, I would say definitely try it. Try something new. I know it looks a little different from a traditional sweet potato, but it's definitely good. And so today we're gonna be grilling these on our George Foreman. So I'm gonna go ahead and place these in a bowl, what I did was I sliced them. So I kept the skin on. The skin is definitely high in fiber. So the skin is edible. Of course, I washed them off. So I sliced them up and they look like full moons, pretty much, little disc. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and plug my grill up. I'm going to go ahead, while my grill is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and dump my sweet potatoes in a bowl, and we'll season these bad boys up. So I have olive oil, and I'm not using avocado oil because avocado oil has a higher heat, and when you're indoor grilling, you want to get as much color on it as possible, so you want to see those lines. And olive oil, because of the lower smoke point, it will allow you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and coat my sweet potatoes. And mixing them, they'll still cook at around the same time they'll be done. So you don't have to worry about separating the traditional sweet potato from the Japanese sweet potato. Just want to make sure that oil is good. And on sweet potatoes, I don't do too much seasoning. Just a little bit of salt brings out the flavors, and a little bit of pepper. If you want, you could use a little bit of garlic powder, or even fresh garlic or a garlic seasoning, you can, but you want to highlight the flavors of the sweet potato. So on this, keeping it simple, it just works. So this is about half a tablespoon, not tablespoon, half a teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt. And then I'm gonna go about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. A little bit more. And then we're gonna mix it up. And I'm just gonna toss that up, make sure it's nice and coated. My green light is on, so perfect timing. Now I'm just going to place those right on my grill. And what you want is, for when you're cutting your sweet potatoes, you want them to be uniform in size, so you don't have some super thick and then some super small. Number one, because you want them to cook evenly, and you don't want them too thin because you'll end up with mush. And you could do the same thing on an outdoor grill as well. But it's definitely a great side dish to any grilled food, and it's a good cookout dish as well. All right. So now I'm just gonna let those cook, probably about 3 minutes, and then I'll check it. All right, so I lied, that was about 10 minutes, not 3 minutes. But you do wanna check it because it depends on your grill as well. And so what I check for is if it's firm or not. I know you're probably looking like, that's hot. Yes, it is. I have chef hands, so don't do what I just did at home. Please don't. But what you could use is like a fork to poke through, and you just want it to be soft, like not too soft like mashed potato or baked sweet potato soft, but just firm enough. And that's what this is. All of them are done. So I'm going to pull them all off. And as you can see, the George Foreman, the good thing about it is that the heat is coming from both sides. So you don't have to worry about if I'm going to get grill marks. At least one side, like if it doesn't have grill marks on this side, the other side is going to have the grill marks. So I'm just going to throw them all in a bowl, and then I'm going to taste it to see where we're at on flavors. And with this, you could also add, like at this stage, you could add like some fresh parsley. Would be a nice brightness, give it a nice brightness and freshness to it as well. But we're gonna use these as is, since we already seasoned them and oiled them up. And I'm going to break this one up and I'm going to taste it. I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit because my tongue is not set up like my fingers. So I don't want to burn. So good. By us just doing simple on the seasonings, it brings out the sweetness of the sweet potato. And then, especially because we're going to pair it with things that are like the watermelon steak and the chicken thighs have like bold flavors and smoky flavors in it. The sweetness from the sweet potatoes, the sweetness from the sweet potatoes will balance it out. So now we are going to grill our watermelon steaks. And remember this liquid, we're going to save this. We're not going to pour it out. Because it's fruit. Of course, if it was raw meat, you would definitely pour it out. On these, it should be about 3 minutes. I'll check it after 3 minutes. So now that was about 5 minutes in total, but I would still check it after 3 because of course it depends on the ripeness of your watermelon, but this is what you want. You want to get those grilled lines on there, but you still want it to be like nice and firm like a steak. Yep, cool. So I'm just going to pour these over here. Super nice. So now we're going to cook our chicken thighs. Our grill is ready. Throw that right on there. And when you put your chicken thighs on there, you want to make sure it's flat so it cooks evenly. And then I'm going to set that. So I'm going to let this cook for about 8 minutes and then we'll check it after 8 minutes. Now my chicken is done and that was about 6 minutes. But you could check yours. If I would have let this go 8 minutes, it would have been black. So, and we don't want that. So I checked it after 6 minutes and it's perfect, but this is how we want. We want to get a char on it, not burnt, but just a char on there so it's texture. And what that is from, the dry rub normally has like a little bit of sugar in it or some type of sweetener in it just to balance out the spices. So it caramelizes a little faster and cooks a little faster. But you always want to check. Like I know from feel, from touch, that when it's done, but you could temp it to be sure. If you're not too sure, oh, is it done or is it not done? Just temp it. It should be at 165 or above for chicken. And that is our grilled chicken thighs. All right, so now we are ready to plate all of our items. So first I'm gonna start off with our marinated tomato and squash salad. Before I plate, since this has been sitting and marinating, I'm going to taste one of the tomatoes. It soaked up that marinade very good. So now I'm gonna go right in. We're gonna plate this separate. And that is your marinated tomato and squash salad. And next, I'm going to plate our chicken. I'm gonna start off with our grilled sweet potatoes. And I'm going to just interchange them. Just the colors. Show both colors. And then again, even though this is a plate slash bowl kind of, because it has the lifted sides, still always want to keep a little bit of that white space. And then I'm not gonna cut my chicken thigh. I'm gonna place it right there on that sweet potato. And then the juices, I'm gonna pour right over the top. And then on this, for some color, I'm going to grab just a little bit of fresh parsley. And I'm just going to tear a few leaves over the top just for some color, just for some garnish. And that is our grilled chicken thighs. That is our grilled chicken thighs with sweet potatoes. Next, we're going to plate our watermelon steaks. All right. So same thing on the potatoes. I'm going to alternate them, still keeping my white space. And then, as you can see on the watermelon steaks, the juices has released. Even though I reserved the liquid from the marinade, the juices has released, so I'm gonna use the juices from this, because that is good stuff right there. So I'm just gonna take my watermelon steak and put it right there on the sweet potato. And then I'm gonna take some of this liquid and pour right over my watermelon steaks. Looks so good. All right, and same thing, I'm gonna grab some parsley just for some color. Actually, on this one, I'm gonna grab some cilantro. I changed my mind. I grabbed cilantro instead of parsley on this one because I feel like the cilantro will go well with the watermelon. It will add some flavor to it. But whatever your preference is, and again, you could use dried cilantro or dried parsley. But this is literally just for a little bit of color. All right, and then this is our tomato and squash salad. This is our grilled chicken thigh with grilled sweet potatoes. And this is our grilled watermelon steak with grilled sweet potatoes. So now it's tasting time. let's taste. Now I'm gonna taste our watermelon steak. So I'm gonna cut right into it, and this is watermelon, so yes, I'm using a butter knife, which is fine. So, oh, look at that. My God, that looks so good. I'm not gonna apologize for smacking because it's just so good. It's smack worthy. But the flavors, like the sweetness from the watermelon really brings out like a little bit of heat, like far as spiciness of the rub. And then it's a hint of acidicness that I get from the balsamic, but it is so good, and I get that smoky flavor. It tastes like I grilled this, like outside, but it was indoor, because you know this episode is all about indoor grilling, but this right here delivered all the flavors of grilling. So now I'm gonna try the Japanese sweet potato and the traditional sweet potato. I'm gonna try them both together. So if you were at your friend's house or even my house, like, you could use your fingers, right? This is kind of finger food, not the watermelon steak, but either or. But I wouldn't judge you. I really want to use my fingers right now, but I'm not. I'm gonna, stick with this knife and fork, but it's cool. So I'm gonna get a little bit of my sweet potato as well. And the juices from the watermelon steak actually seeped into the sweet potatoes, which is fine because I know the flavors will still pop. Perfect balance too, because the watermelon steak has kind of like a smoky sweet heat to it. I'll describe it that way. And then the sweetness from the sweet potatoes balances it out, but this is a perfect dish. It's good. Now we're gonna get into our chicken thighs. I'm gonna go right on in. See if I could cut it with this butter knife, but yep, we're good. Look at that. That looks so grilled, right? Like it was on the outdoor grill. It tastes like it too. It's good. So good. And it's still moist. That's why I use. Let me stop chewing first. I cut too much off. So our chicken thigh is not dry at all. That's why I specifically use the chicken thighs, because they hold up better. You could still use a chicken breast if that's your preference, but just know it's not going to be as moist. It will be a little bit if you because it will be a little bit the longer you marinate it. I'll put it that way, and you don't like overcook it. Cook it to 165 and that's it. You should still have some moisture to it. But the chicken thigh is always going to be a little more fattier and a little more moist, and it's going to hold up to grilling. But overall, the flavors are so good. And then again, I'm going to taste my sweet potatoes. And I think balancing out both, using both the Japanese sweet potato and the traditional sweet potato, it worked really well because it's a balance of textures as well. That is good. I'm clapping with my utensils. So next, I'm going to get into our squash and tomato salad. It needed a nice introduction. Cool. gonna get some of my squash and a tomato. You see how that marinade is dripping. I don't know if y'all hear that crunch, but that's the crunch on the squash. And that's why I use fresh squash, so you get that crunch, but because it's been marinating and sitting for a little bit, it soaks up that flavor, and then you get the softer texture from the cherry tomato. But it's super balanced, really well. Super yummy. And that was our tomato and squash salad. And that wraps up another episode of Cooking Clean with Chef Octavia. Thank you guys for tuning in. Till next time, peace.